talking about the sogging and stocking. So this, there's my one and only slide, so don't think of this as a presentation, think of it more as a conversation. So that's why we're here tonight, is I'm not the only one going to talk, and I encourage you guys to say what you're thinking too, right? So this is, consider this more of a conversation than an actual presentation. So if we go back probably about a year ago, back to some warmer temperatures, and the egg collection that this club and Ontario Steelheaders helped with at Denny's Dam. So after the egg collections for the clubs, all the guys pitched back in, and we collected with the Denny's Dam posse there, we collected some more rainbow trout eggs at Denny's Dam. So those fish, if you remember, went into quarantine while the adults were taken to the University of Guelph for testing, and then after that process completed itself, the fish were, we began the process in the Chatsworth Fish Hatchery of actually rearing those fish. So fast forward, what happened during that time frame is, as you guys recall, that we did take those adults. They were tested. It's probably a good opportunity, although many people didn't think of it at the time, of having to take those fish out of the system, right? I think it was good for everybody, kind of a snapshot of what's going on with that fishery. So nothing came back that was any concern to the health of those fish. So it's a good way. It's a very it's a costly exercise to do it any other way, to test fish for diseases without symptoms, right? So we got that opportunity to see the health of the fishery. So again, fast forward to today. On Monday morning, I'm going to meet the stocking truck, the guys from Chatsworth, and we're going to stock 31,000 rainbow trout at 15 grams. So we're going to do that Monday morning. So what we did is, for those familiar with sogging, in Hanover, the beady sogging dumps into the main sogging, right? From there you probably got I think it's 115 kilometers as the fish swims. So from the mouth of the beady, we go up to this Highway 6, takes you into Owen Sound right here. So we have that red circle there. Just to the east of Highway 6 is a dam that's impassable to rainbow trout, or any migratory salmon for that matter. So that's basically the end of the road for the beady sogging. So above that, we have fisheries management plans. Although they are old, they speak to, in the past, probably decades ago, how we want to manage certain fisheries. So, you know, long before my time, the sogging was identified and the beady as a river and a system that we would manage for rainbow trout. Above this point on Highway 6, the beady is, as you guys know, called clear productive waters and suitable for more native species like a brook trout. So that man-made barrier, in essence, it does provide thermal warming and not really ideal for a cold water system, but in fact it's a barrier for migratory fish that serves the purpose of separating these fisheries, right, to maintain our native species separate from the rainbows. So anyways, we selected 3 sites, and depending on access, same sites that some of the fellows here that are involved in the adult transfer would be familiar with. There's Highway 6, then 3 bridges and 2 bridges basically in that area. So that's the same area that we'll be releasing those 31,000 yearlings on Monday. So again, much less paralleling the efforts that you folks are involved in. We're putting these fish into the headwaters of the beady in an attempt to create a fishery that fish return, as you know, to their point of origin. And thinking here is that we will have that come true and have these fish actually go back to the point of stocking, which has, you know, prime real estate, right? It has yearling habitat as suitable spawning substrate. So that's why we chose that location for that ability, and also the fact is we want fish to go back to where they should spawn, right? And our hope is, much like your efforts in Saugeen, is that this will kickstart a population unique to that area that will go back there to spawn. Yep, Josh.
Our fish from Lake Huron and the steelheaders are clipped with adipose and they're stocked not in the beady. Are you going to be able to differentiate stock fish from Chatsworth returning to the beady as adults? They're going to carry an adipose clip, right? How are we going to know how good the survival is on those fish based on our fish out of Lake Huron hatchery?
Yep, good question. So,
I know, like I've seen how many fish are in there, whether they're clipped or not, I don't know, but you could.
Yep. So that's kind of what we want to be able to do, some effectiveness monitoring to deem how successful stocking is. What is the result of stocking? Does it get to a point where you don't have to stock anymore, and we have to have the ability to do that. So we have a few ideas, and Sean and Dave will probably pitch in if I forget anything here, but kind of that preempts me into my next part of this is, so you're familiar with the work that was done by the partners there in access on the Saugeen. Walkerton first, we got fish above there collectively, and then we worked on Maple Hill. Maple Hill, I believe, is in a much better spot for passing fish than it was last year with the improvements we were able to do in the summer. So I'm looking to see, we know we passed fish last spring. I think we're going to pass a lot this spring. So we have a little window. And by doing biomass surveys on the beady Saugeen in this area, we plan to execute that in the month of August, and actually looking for some support and maybe some manpower to pull that off. So what a biomass study is basically a combination of things, but it's a presence absence for what fish might be there. And obviously we're going to target rainbow trout, right? That's primarily why we're doing this. Quickly, it's a study to determine basically the health of that creek through everything from invertebrates to stream flow temperatures, substrate, just basically through a system that you work through this guide. It guides you through what quality of a stream we have, right? So what we have last year is, you might be able to argue, besides the adult transfer, before 2013, there wasn't an awful lot of fish getting past Maple Hill. That's going to change. So when we electrofish, do our biomass study this summer in August, we'll be able to determine by year-old fish, yearling fish, what kind of success those few fish had in 2012, as well as the adult, like the adult transfer, right? So when we go in there and specifically target yearling fish, we're going to know what happened the spring before. Also, we're going to be able to tell, we're in there at the same time, we're going to be able to tell, are hatchery fish still there? They will be adipose clipped, right? So we're going to have a sense on when that phenomenon of smolting occurred. Law of literature says that that can happen pretty quickly because of the nature of hatchery fish. We'll be able to say yes or no based on when we do our electroshocking. So that'll be pretty interesting. As well, a couple things we'll talk about tonight. Obviously, like Sean indicated, we're in a period now where we're not really sure what the future of MNR is at a field level, any level for that matter. But we must go forward, right? We must plan and go forward and resource manage it. So to answer your question maybe more specifically, Josh, is what we would like to do, it won't be this year class of fish, but as you know, we have this commitment with the hatchery to rear rainbows for multiple years, is we're looking at a system, a pit tag system, where we can mark our fish individually, separate from the club's fish. And basically how pit tag system works is there's a reader, right? So basically, let's just call it a loop that you can place at the beginning of a fishway or the entrance of a creek. And when a fish swims through that loop, that wire is activated and downloads the information into the reader. So if funding allows, we'll have the ability to know what kind of a return we can have with a whole year class of stock fish into the beadie, which will differentiate, you know, hatchery, Lake Huron fishing hatchery fish from Chatsworth. But as you know,